Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Harder Not Smarter podcast. Our guest today is Denny Girardi, who's a former Army Infantry Team leader with deployments to the Ghazni province in Afghanistan, and is now the co-host of Be the Standard podcast with Mike Burns. They largely talk about creating unbreakable habits in daily life, execution, accountability, setting standards, and so we're really excited to talk to him. Plus, having another podcast host on the show is going to be a great opportunity for us to break down what really goes in behind the scenes to get one of these going. So please welcome Denny Girardi.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm happy to be here again. Kevin and I, we've discussed previously, just getting into this podcast thing and kind of going through this journey at the same time. And it's really cool to be here with both of you guys, Kevin and Greg. Be able to bounce ideas off each other, and let's see what this journey looks like moving forward. Appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. So I know that you deployed, I think you were like 2006 was when we joined the Army. So deploying to Afghanistan during that time was like stop loss, the surge back to Afghanistan after Iraq. And being as a National Guard member, that must have been just super interesting because weren't you guys doing like 13 and 15-month deployments?
Yeah, so it's funny you say the surge, right? Because there was a huge surge in 2007 just after I got in. And my unit was part of that. They went into Iraq in Baghdad in 2007, 2008. And I actually missed that deployment because medically I wasn't cleared. I had a tracheotomy due to an infection from an extracted wisdom tooth. And so I had a tracheotomy. I had, yeah, dude, it was crazy, dude. It almost killed me.
No way. They gave you a trach?
Yeah. So what happened was it was right at the end of basic training. So I was down in Fort Benning. Greg, you're familiar. So I'm down in Fort Benning. They did a side wisdom tooth extraction, and it got infected, and the infection spread through my throat, closed my airway. And so I needed a trach. They had to cut me open over here, so I have a scar. And but yeah, no, I was in the ICU for 12 days. And needless to say, 5 months later, my unit went to Iraq without me, and I was pissed. So yeah,
man, I thought Navy medicine was bad.
Yeah, no. So I show up to my unit day one, and my first sergeant's like, "Yeah, we're going to Iraq," and I was like, "Sweet, let's do this." And I still had a dressing on under my shirt, and there was a little bit of blood that was coming through. And he's like, "What the F is that?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, my bad." He's like, "I thought you were cleared," and I'm like, "No, not yet." And he's like, "You're not freaking going anywhere." He's like, "So, yes." So I missed the Iraq deployment in 2007, 2008 with the surge, right? And went to Afghanistan with the same guys, 2010, 2011. But yeah, no, the op tempo for the Guard was pretty crazy. It was pretty consistent. Every 2 years you were going for 12 to 15 months. But somehow through all that, doing 7 years, I only went once. So yeah. But
I was Ghazni back in 2010, 2011.
You guys, my understanding
in
being
Wardak
SEALs and
just to cover down
ODA,
on a couple of
what's it, every 6-8 months you guys are deployed?
So we usually, our op tempo was like a year on and then 6 months on, or a year off, 6 months on. That was pretty much the op tempo when I was in.
Okay. And the SEAL teams, depending on when you were in, because when the war first kicked off, they had regionally assigned areas to each team. Like SEAL Team 1 was Southeast Asia. SEAL Team 3 was the Middle East. 5 and 7 weren't even teams back then. And so after they created 5, they went to more of a rotation. And by the time I was in, they had it pretty standardized, kind of like with you guys every 2 years, but we had 6-month blocks. So it was a 6-month pro dev cycle where, you go to sniper school, breacher school, any of those types of things, working on personal skills. Then you have your platoon workup for 6 months. Then you have the 6-month squadron integration where we bring in all our enablers and stuff like that. We do a final battle problem, and then we deploy for 6 months, and then it rotates through. So when we had four SEAL teams on each coast, every team was in a different block. And so everyone's always asking, "Oh, do you know so and so from this team?" Like, man, if we weren't in the team, even though we literally were next door buildings to each other, you just never saw guys because like if you're on your workup cycle, other guys are doing their pro dev and they're off in their own schools or they're deployed. Like you just never saw anybody. It was really weird.
It's funny when people say, "Oh, do you know this guy? Do you know that guy?" And I spent basically my entire career being like, "Oh man, I hate when people, when guys do that, right? Because it's such a big army and it's such a big navy."
You were in the
whatever.
army. Do you know so and so?
Yeah. And it's funny. It's funny that you brought that up because I actually pulled that move on Jocko Willink at the Army Navy game back in November or December rather. So I'm at the Army Navy game and he's like standing around meeting people. He's a really cool guy, right? So first thing I said to him, I'm like, "Hey man, like I worked with some SEALs overseas and I hate to be that guy, but do you know John Doolittle?" And there was another guy as well. And come to find out, he knew both of them. So it was I lucked out where he actually knew both of them. And John, he actually was on, I think, SEAL Team 2 with John at one point back in the day. So at least he had worked with one of them and he actually knew the other. So I got lucky.
Jocko also had a unique role. He was, if I remember correctly, he was the land warfare instructor. And so land warfare was like the dick dragger of of our workup cycles when we're out in it's called Nyland, but it's basically El Centro.
Okay.
Middle of the Mojave Desert. It's where we do all our shooting, our explosives. We can call in air support, a whole bunch of stuff out there. No one cares what we do. And so he ran that segment of training, and he was doing that before I joined. But from what I understood, it was just a dick dragger. Sure. Him. And so he saw all the platoons as they were coming through.
Yeah.
So he got to see a lot of people. And
so all those guys cycling through, it's obviously he can say he knew a lot of them. But it was cool that John actually, because John and I worked for John in Afghanistan, and we've remained friends until today. And like he's going to be on my show at some point. So it was cool that they were actually on SEAL Team 2 together or in that team together. I don't know in what capacity they work together, but it was cool to kind of pull that stupid move that everybody pulls and have it work out, especially with a guy like that.
Every once in a while it works.
Yeah.
Or you just get the people that don't feel like saying, "No, I don't know him." And they're like, "Oh yeah.
Yeah. Kevin, what's Jocko's reputation in the SEAL teams?
He's a fucking animal. He was, like
he seems like it.
Again, This is all anecdotal. I didn't actually know him in the teams. I think he had just gotten out when I joined in 2012. But he was the type of person that supposedly, was putting himself through extra workouts during budge. He's like, "This wasn't hard enough, so I'm going to go lift weights now." At the end of the day.
That's fine.
Whether or not that's actually true, I wouldn't be surprised. Like the dude looks like a gorilla. You met him in person. He's huge.
His hands are like
professional, like Olympic wrestler. Just a giant head, no neck, cauliflower ears from doing jujitsu.
Yeah, it couldn't have been a nicer guy. Couldn't have been a nicer guy too. Just very engaging. Didn't he had a line full of people. He wasn't trying to move the conversation forward. Like, I got to do this for the next hour or whatever. He was just very engaging, really cool guy. So I was not necessarily surprised by that, but it was still somewhat refreshing, I guess.
Yeah, at some point I'll do the 30-minute drive down to Victory and do the jiu-jitsu class. I heard that he just loves rolling with other team guys.
Oh, nice.
They have a good
you're
group,
that close
out there. Oh yeah. I'm like, so that's down in Pacific Beach, which is 15 minutes north of downtown. I'm just 20-30 minutes north of that.
Nice.
But it's you get sucked into your bubble. I've got my jiu-jitsu gym up here. It's 5 minutes away on my bicycle, so I don't have to get in the car very often. Yeah,
I've been saying for a while now that I'm going to get back into like MMA stuff, because I was doing that prior to going to Afghanistan, and I actually was a combatives instructor in the Army. So I taught it, and then got back from Afghanistan, had 2 shoulder surgeries, and was like, you know what? I don't think I need to do this anymore. I have nothing. I don't have anything to prove. Oh, dude, forget it. two shoulder surgeries, almost died from this. It's like, it's the funniest thing ever. The jokes don't never stop, right? With the VA, like this comes back. Yeah, we'll get 10%. And I'm like, okay, all right. let me appeal that one. But yeah. Greg, where are you located?
So I'm actually over in the Netherlands.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. I was over in Colorado Springs since I was there since 2016. And then my wife got a gig over here, and decided that we were going to do the whole expat thing while we have a 4 and a 3-year-old. So it was kind of like the right timing to do it if we're going to do it at any time.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I see you're also a fellow political science guy.
Yeah, what a fucking that's a great degree.
yeah, very very
Find
useful.
yourself using that a lot.
Yeah, it's very useful.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually did that.
Literally, my least favorite thing to talk about is fucking politics. Like,
yeah, dude. I used to, when I went to school for it, I kind of liked it. Like I kind of liked politics, and the idea was, I'll go to law school afterwards, but. Then you get your degree and you're like, you find out how much law school really costs and you kind of weigh the rewards and the benefits of that. And it's like, no, now I'm in a sales career and, I don't have $100K in, law school debt. So.
Yeah. I also just have zero interest in reading that much. I enjoy reading when it's on my terms and stuff that I enjoy, but just the amount of reading they have to do. And when I have to read legalese, like someone sends me a contract, my eyes glaze over. I'm like, what is this nonsense? Like nobody talks like this. They literally make it as confusing as possible so that only this one sect of humanity can understand this gerbil that they're putting together. And they have these weird things like shall means this, and what was the big debate for like concealed carry? It was shall issue and may issue. So shall and may sounds like pretty much the same thing, but a shall issue state means that they have to issue the concealed carry. Like the individual doesn't need to give a reason, a justification for why they should be issued the concealed carry. Like, hey, I just want it, so you have to give it to me unless you can prove that there's a reason you shouldn't. And then the may issue, like California, is you can apply for a concealed carry, but it'll be up to the county sheriff to decide if your reason is good enough to get it. And that was the big debate that I think New York just went through. Is I think it was the Supreme Court said that New York, it was unconstitutional for them to discriminate against who gets it, and so they were told they had to become a shall issue. Yeah, and so we're waiting for that to trickle down to the other states, but. The point of the story is legalese is fucking stupid. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And it's funny you say that too, because Massachusetts is like a mini California when it comes to that kind of thing. And, even as a vet and everything, I think it took 11 months for the city police chief to approve my license to carry application. So I had I applied right when I got home, and I was like, all right, I'm going to apply. But yeah, it took about 11 months for it to finally get approved. And I was like, wow, that's Massachusetts, I guess. Yeah. San Diego County is notorious for not giving them. I bet. I don't know if it's because we have so much military here or it's just that's how the sheriff is, but you can go up to Orange County. Oh, that'd probably be quick. Super easy. Yeah. And that's how it is in the small towns here too. Like small towns, no issues, but where I applied is the second largest city in New England, Worcester. So the old chief was, I guess, pretty stringent on, how he went about approving those. Jumping back to the original topic though of deploying out during stop loss and the surge and all that. How was your deployment? I was there in Helmand Province in 2010. Okay, so I know we had the big push in the Marine Corps. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. I was in Ghazni Province, which is more eastern Afghanistan, just south of. I'm not mistaken. We were just south of Pakistan. But yeah, no, it got hot. It started off pretty slow. We got there in the fall, and just as fighting season's getting over, and then you go through the winter, and then come March, April, May, it was pretty busy, right?
But what's interesting about what our mission was, we didn't really have a kinetic mission. Our mission wasn't like, hey, go out there and kick these doors in and go up there and snatch and grab these guys. It was, we had a provincial reconstruction team of CA guys, of agriculture guys, medical staff, things like that. We'd go into these villages and they'd kind of seek out the village elders and kind of see what the needs of the province were, or the needs of that particular village, whether, like I said, agriculturally, educationally, healthcare, whatever services and help that we could provide. Our job was basically security for them, right? Mm-hmm. So we'd go in, we'd clear those villages, clear those areas, say, all right, you guys are good to come in. They'd go in, do their job, and then we'd basically secure their exfil. And that was kind of our job for the entire deployment for the most part. We did some other things as well, like we'd go into some shady places just to kind of do some assessments. They call them assessments of, where can we put this hospital? Where can we put this school? And some of those areas just ended up being more dangerous than others. But so we'd get into it there. But yeah, that was kind of what our mission was. And it was pretty cool. We had guys from SEAL Team 8 that were on our FOB. So they just basically, when they decided they wanted to come out with us, they came out with us. Otherwise, they were just there as a small team, 4 guys, working with the Polish Special Forces, doing stuff at night. But it was pretty cool working with them. We worked with a couple different like ODA teams on a couple, like 2 or 3 different missions. But interestingly enough, as Army guys, we worked with SEALs almost every mission, and only the ODA guys a few times. But still pretty cool. It was like a really, not a lot of National Guard guys are like, I worked for and with Navy SEALs for a year in Afghanistan. So it was kind of cool to do, just experience, right? But yeah,
we're sluts. We'll work with anybody. We don't have like who are we going to work with on the Navy? It just doesn't, unless we're going on a boat someplace.
Yeah,
we're just like, who can we go out with? Marines, sure. Air Force, send it.
Yeah,
Army, we'll go. Like we just need to beg, borrow, and steal from everybody to get what we need.
Yep. What I liked about the guys,
the CBs hook us up.
Yeah, dude. Like, so we had CBs with us as well. They built us a gym. Those guys were fucking awesome. They were cool. They
built like showers and everything. You're like, these guys are great.
Yep. Yeah. Our
and at what point did you meet Mike Burns?
So Mike and I met right when he got back from Iraq. So I was actually supposed to go to Iraq. I was initially in his squad. He was a squad leader. Then obviously I didn't go. But it's funny because I had never met him face to face. And all of the guys were like, dude, you remind me of Mike Burns. You're like a mini Mike Burns. And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is. So I don't know what that means. But then when he
got
back,
being called mini?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mike's a big human. Mike's a big boy.
Yeah, he looks like it.
But yeah, no, so he gets back from Iraq and then I meet him and I'm like, okay, this is why I kind of was able to piece it together. We have we're not that similar, but I think militarily we kind of had like the same disciplines, the same like attitude. We were both pretty stern, more serious. We come across more serious. I think as we've gotten older, we've dropped that a bit. But so he came back, and then just as originally planned, I ended up getting assigned to him and working for him overseas and everything. So he's solid. I wish he was able to be here for this, but great guy. You guys got to meet him.
Is he a sergeant major right now?
He is. Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny. He actually, he started in our unit, 181st Infantry, as an E1, and he went every single rank E1 to E9 in the 181st Infantry. Like, that's pretty cool.
Good for him, man.
That's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
You don't get that very often.
No, I've never heard of that before. So it's pretty, because he joined when he was 17 as an E1. I think, I don't even know if he had graduated high school. I think he did the GED thing. But yeah, E1 to E9. And I don't know how much time he's got left. He keeps saying, I'll get out when it's no longer fun, is what he says. But
is he doing the full-time National Guard?
No, so he's actually a full-time firefighter.
Part-time?
Yeah, so he's doing that part-time, but he's a full-time firefighter. and he actually owns 2 gyms as well. So he owns a CrossFit gym and then another gym as well. So he's got a lot going on.
Just dabbling all around.
I was nervous
Is
to ask him to do the
guy?
podcast.
His arm. Yeah.
Yeah, he
is. He a CrossFit guy?
Yeah. Yeah. So
his arms are literally bigger than my head.
Yeah, he's a beast, man. He's big. He's a big boy. So it's funny that when we were deployed, our senior enlisted advisor was a SEAL. He was a senior chief, and he was big into CrossFit, and he got our whole unit into CrossFit and doing CrossFit, and he's the one that got the gym built for us overseas and everything. But yeah, so then Mike kind of fell in love with CrossFit while we were deployed, and then came home and became that CrossFit guy that just doesn't shut up about it.
One of the true cultists.
Oh, dude, big time. And it's funny. There's been a few episodes where we've kind of like made fun of him because it's like, and he always prefaces it himself. He's like, God, not to be that guy, but that's kind of like what CrossFit's like. And he can't help himself. It always comes into the conversation. So I make fun of him for it.
I mean, it's like Marines and pilots. I'm going to leave SEALs out of it, but how do you know who the Marines and the pilots are in the room? Like, don't worry, they'll let you know.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
Cross is the same way. It's a cult.
Oh man, it's
friendly cult, but yeah.
Yeah, and I got into the workouts and stuff overseas just like he did. But when I got home, I think I did CrossFit for a couple more years, and then I got into software sales. I ended up at Oracle selling software, and I was like, yeah, I can't really make the CrossFit schedule thing work. So just went back to just doing my own thing, which for me works better anyways. I mean, I was always injured doing CrossFit, so it was time to go back to the traditional way of doing things for me.
And at what point did you guys decide to team up for the podcast?
Yeah, so it's funny. I started writing a book over the summer about just, my life, my story. And, because I came up pretty tough. And I know Mike did as well. We both kind of, You
guys both born and raised in Massachusetts?
So Mike started in New York, but I think he's been in Massachusetts since his early teens, and or maybe even prior to that. But I've been in Massachusetts pretty much my whole life. Off and on, I was in Connecticut a little bit for like middle school, high school, and then after that, moved back to Massachusetts. But so I started writing a book over the summer just about my life and different things. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bedros Keuilian.
Yeah.
So I actually, one day he posts a lot of stuff, motivational stuff, this and that. And I actually messaged him directly and just kind of, hey man, I'm just curious. I feel like I got a story to tell. Started writing a book, thinking about doing maybe a podcast. I'm not sure. And, he just said, hey man, set the book aside for now, do the podcast, start putting out content and see where that takes you. But he goes, get back to the book. But I would start with a podcast. And
that's really cool that he responded, because I know he's
I was shocked. I was shocked, and he's even responded since then. He's surprisingly responsive. But so he gave me what I feel like is some pretty solid advice, so I took it, and I decided that I'm going to do the podcast, and why not see if my best buddy wants to do it with me, right? So I'm not going at it alone. I was going to do it alone, that would have been fine, but I thought it'd be better and more impactful, because a lot of the conversations we have on the show, we've had individually, just us two having these talks about all of these different topics like PTSD and mental health and veterans, issues and things like that. So, I thought it'd be really cool for us to kind of share a lot of the ideas and perspectives that we've discussed a million times at a bar. Right. So, I asked him if he wanted to do it, and he said, yeah, man. He goes, I've thought about doing a podcast a million times. He goes, I just never did it. He's like, I bought a microphone 3 years ago. And he goes, that was going to be my motivation. I was going to, he goes, I bought a microphone. I stuck it on my kitchen table. That was going to be my motivation. I was going to do a podcast. And that microphone's still in the box. So, so now here we are. We're doing the podcast, and I'm really glad that he's along on this journey with me, because like I said, he's my best buddy, and it's really cool that, you know, we get to experience it together. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's
That's
awesome.
a great way to build it all out too with someone that you enjoy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, to be perfectly honest, we've talked about this before. Greg and I have never actually met in person. Everything we've
know.
done has been through LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and just realizing, first off, it was super eerie how parallel our lives were.
Yeah.
Other than, you know, I went SEALs, he went Green Berets, but you know, both special operations, got out, got into recruiting. He went med tech. I did more life science. Realized doing that for somebody else sucks, so let's just build our own company. Then we realized entrepreneurship is a lot more fun. Recruiting's fine, but you know, it's a great segue into entrepreneurship. And then we just wanted to talk more about entrepreneurship, and we linked up on LinkedIn, ironically, and like, let's just combine forces instead of not even competing with one another, but just doing a lot of the same work that, you know, you can be spread loaded across a group of people. Double our efforts and also double our network.
Yeah, so I think it's actually really cool that you guys, you know, met through LinkedIn, decided to essentially, you know, take this journey together after having never met in person. And yeah, I couldn't imagine doing that, but I think it's really cool because, again, you guys, your paths are parallel, and you guys both come from the special operations world. So obviously there's something there, and to be able to team up to do this, I think is pretty sweet.
Yeah. A little bit jealous. We at some point have aspirations like, once this makes, you know, we have 1 million subscribers and we're having decent revenue coming in.
Yeah.
And Greg's decided to move back from the Netherlands. You know, actually, I guess he didn't have to. We do you know, sprint sessions of recording with guests, but having an actual studio out here, being able to do these in person, because you do lose a decent amount of that nonverbal communication when you're doing things through. Often, you know, we're on Riverside, but whether you're doing Zoom, just voice, or some other platform, you lose a little bit of not being in the same room, reading each other. You know, we step on each other's toes from time to time with making comments. I'm sure there's a slight delay between California and the Netherlands with the internet, but
Getting better though.
it is. We figure each other out. You know, we've done, I think, 15 or 16 recordings at this point.
I think this is 17. Is it?
Like
no,
that.
it's 16. Something like that. We're up there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You guys started, when did you guys start? Beginning of February? Or was it even before that? Because I mean, I started.
I think
February
it was around the beginning of February
6th, and I think
because we're only
tomorrow I'll release
it was
episode
the beginning
6.
of February.
Today was, we released. I mean, it's going to be weird for a timestamp if people are listening to this, but yeah, today released.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
episode 7 with Christy Myers.
Oh, nice.
It's all good. You know, people know we record these, and then at some point
Yeah.
down the road, release them after editing and stuff like that. Which,
Yeah.
actually, I guess might as well a good topic of conversation. It was like, how do you guys do your episode distribution? I know you release every Tuesday, but how are you guys finding guests? How are you recording, editing? What have you learned along the way?
Yeah, so I have a childhood friend. He's somebody I've known my entire life. He does all of the editing. He does. He's here every time we record. Like even for this, he came over. Make sure the mics are good. Make sure the video is good. So he kind of makes the world go round for us.
He's like your behind the scenes producer.
Yeah, and the fact that he's willing to do it and help out is incredible. So we have that, and then but you know, Mike and I we sit down every week and we're like, all right, what? Because usually we film 2 episodes at the same time, or back to back rather, and you know, I stopped going through like, hey, welcome back for episode number whatever, because we might want to shift them around, because I do have some guests coming on. Like last week we recorded with a guest, so I'm going to shuffle him in before or in between some episodes that are already done. So it's almost like playing chess, right? Like where do these episodes make the most sense? And, you know, should like a current event happen where we want to talk about it and get that in sooner rather than later. So, you know, these are things that we've learned along the way. And, you know, I'm always asking for feedback, especially from the audience, from the guests. What can we do better? What can we improve on? What would you like to see here? And that's what prompted last week's PTSD mental health episode. I had a buddy tell me, hey, hit PTSD hard, because we lost a good friend of ours to suicide a few years after we got back. And so that's what we did. So we were like, I texted Mike, I said, hey, they want us to talk about Jimmy, one of our buddies. So that's what we did. And, we aired that prior to, we could have put some other stuff out there first, but yeah. And that's something I noticed, Greg, you hit a lot on, is mental health. And I appreciate that. I like that. I saw your post this morning. You posted something about mental health, and you something like, hey, you're not a Green Beret or whatever, but you're basically making the point that your issues are still valid. So I really like that, because I think a lot of people take that approach. And I actually personally took that approach when I got home and had to kind of go seek treatment for PTSD. And again, I say this in episode 5 when I talk a little bit more in depth, but I had to be told by somebody at the vet center that I have PTSD. I just thought I was not readjusting for a year and a half. So I went and got treatment for that. But I was thinking to myself, I would tell myself, like, Denny, you were deployed working with Navy SEALs. You're getting in firefights with Navy SEALs. These guys are doing this, some of them 10, 12, 14 years. You've only deployed once. Why do you feel this way? Right. And so I didn't feel like my feelings were valid, and that I deserved to be feeling that way, because I didn't have that, special operations background, or that, 10, 12 deployments, or whatever you want to call it. But to see a guy like yourself and both of you guys really hitting on that issue, for me, it means a lot. So I appreciate you guys doing that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's just one of those things, right? And men are the fucking worst at this, is just talking about what you're going through, right? And removing any barrier, like that's really what I'm all about, is just like remove any barrier to seeking mental health therapy, help, whatever it is, because there's just like, even if you're like perfectly fine, you can benefit from therapy. So like, if you're just like a millimeter off, like just fucking go get some help and get it addressed, and before it like becomes an actual problem, years down the line and spirals into something else. So that's what I'm all about, man. I really think that the stigma with mental health, it's still very much there, and I think it's mostly just internally, people thinking that it's still there, and not being willing to go ask for help. I think that like outwardly, like in society, I think it's like, getting to the point where people are accepting it and like are wanting people to go seek help.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's getting a lot better, and people are getting away from that, like you said, that self-imposed stigma. And I think that was probably the majority of my issue, right? It was just, I just needed to kind of stop fighting myself on it and just go talk to somebody. And it's been incredibly helpful. And like you said, there isn't a person out there that can't benefit from just talking to a professional, because like you said, even if you're just a millimeter off, that still means you can be better. So I like that.
Yeah, man. So what are you guys up to? Like, what's your goal with the podcast?
Yeah.
I know, like, probably just to talk. I mean, one thing I know you already touched on is like, you want to make like these real world issues that we're all going through and speak about them and vocalize them, so that other people can feel like they're probably not going through it themselves.
Yeah, and I think a lot of
some of the other goals.
Yeah, and I think a lot of ways are the best way to even hit on those goals, and to be your very best at, achieving those things. I think, that's why we came up with Be the Standard, right? Coming up with the name of the podcast was probably the hardest part. Because, and
we have a good story with that.
I heard you, in one of your episodes, I heard you guys talking about how you came up with your name. I forget exactly how you came up with it, but I remember you guys talking about, you were going back and forth with a number of different things. And Mike and I had that experience as well, just trying to come up with a name. And we kept just coming back to the word standard, right? Standard. Because we do hold very high standards for ourselves, and we have, we expect a lot out of ourselves just individually. And, I worked for him in the military, and he led that way and I followed that way. And then ultimately when I got into a leadership position, I led that way as well, is just being the standard for my guys. And then Mike was obviously that standard for me. And, we kind of break it down into 4 key principles. I think, Kevin, you hit on them right in the beginning, but, setting standards, creating unbreakable habits, execution, and accountability. And, not as like a marketing ploy or anything like that, but I think when you add all of those things up, it really equals a pretty solid level of discipline. And if you can hit on all of those things, just setting standards for yourself, right? Deciding for yourself what's acceptable and what's not. And that can be anything. That can be, I don't like the way I look, so I got to get my ass in the gym, right? Professionally, I'm not where I want to be professionally, so maybe it's time for a change. Or that can be personal relationships. It can be, really anything that you find unacceptable. You can change that standard for yourself and set the bar a little bit higher. And then the next standard we have is creating those unbreakable habits by setting goals for yourself and practicing things like time management. And, I think once you have those habits in place and you're doing these things consistently that you need to do, I think that creates just a new level of discipline for yourself. And then, as you guys both know, when your discipline level is high, your productivity is going to be high, and your results are going to be there, right? If you have those habits in place. So that's huge for us. And then, obviously setting standards and executing, or setting standards and creating the habits and then executing on those things, which means essentially just doing what you say you're going to do, right? You set these standards, you created these habits, go fucking do it. So we preach a lot of that stuff. And something I like to say all the time is, you keep the promises you make to yourself. When you do these things, you're basically creating a contract with yourself that you're going to do these things because these are the outcomes that I want. These are the goals that I have, and these are the things I'm going to do to get to that end result, right? And then the last one is that we hit on, which is my favorite, and I think the most important, is accountability. And, accountability is essentially just taking a step back daily and just recalibrating, reassessing, what can I be doing better? Did I get better today? Did I get worse today? When you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing in every area of your life, right? If you skipped a rep at the gym, if you didn't put in the effort with your relationship, your marriage, when you had an off day, and off days are okay. But it's just important to be performing those self-assessments. And so I hit on accountability harder than any of the other principles that we discuss. So those are kind of, like I said, the 4 key things that we like to touch upon. And that's kind of, what I built the podcast around. And each discussion that Mike and I have, whether it's with a guest or whether it's, just the 2 of us talking about whatever it is, I try to tie all those things, those key principles, into that discussion as best I can.
It's so important for podcasts to have pillars or tenets that they're gonna stick to. You get some out there that they just literally talk about anything. So you show up, you're like, I don't know what we're gonna talk about today. Or rather, the listener, I don't know what's gonna be talked about today. It's tough to build consistency with your audience. And so, we talked about earlier with you coming up with the name. I feel like the name should reflect what you talk about. And what you talk about should be things that you're interested in, you're knowledgeable about, and that can provide value to the audience. And as enticing as it is to be like, oh, that's a really interesting topic, outside of that, to try and avoid those, or to try and be another podcast. I want to be just like Joe Rogan and talk about these types of things, and then you dilute yourself down, and so that's something that we had to work through a bunch early on.
Yeah. And Mike and I say it all the time. Like, you're not going to hear us talk about stuff that we literally just don't know anything about, right? Like, we're not going to try to be subject matter experts on stuff we've never done, stuff we've never experienced. In the context of just a basic discussion, if something comes up, maybe I'll have an opinion, but I'll let you know it's my opinion. And I just don't, there's no education or science to back it up. But this is how I feel, right? And, just back to, I think it's important that a podcast has a theme or I guess you call it a theme.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I try to work in those key principles into our discussions. And one of the things that I learned, just going through this process, I watched back, I think it was episode 3 of that we released. And I watched it back and I'm like, oh shit, I kind of got away from our core values that entire episode. Right. And I'm like, so that was just like a reminder for me. And I had a friend watch it who, communications guy, smart guy, was a news anchor for a bit. I was like, can you watch this? And he watches them all anyways. And I was like, I think I just did a shitty job in this one. And he's like, yeah, you kind of got away from your core values of what it is you're looking to accomplish by doing this. And he was just like, you just got to kind of not stick to the script, obviously, but stick to what it is that you're looking to accomplish. And so, yeah, now I'm more aware of that. And, when I put together my notes and whatnot for each episode, I do my very best to try to tie back into, again, what it is we're looking to accomplish. I think that's important.
Yeah. And that's when we first started coming up with names, we were really focused on the vet collective aspect of it. Like, hey, we help veterans get into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So let's just talk with veterans who are entrepreneurs and get their story. And it just seems very narrow. It easily could be done, and it probably could be done.
And we still do it.
Yeah, we still talk to that, but we didn't want to just be talking business all the time, because neither one of us have a life that revolves just around work. And we're by no means some subject matter expert across the spectrum of all things entrepreneurship. That we have our segment that we've dealt with, and we have a lot of interaction with people that have their experiences. But it's not all we want to talk about. And I don't think it's healthy as an entrepreneur to only be focused on business. You need to have the right mindset. You need to have good mental health. And you need to understand what you're going to be going through as an entrepreneur. It's not just, okay, here's your milestones you want to hit. Here's your Q1 finances. Here's your year-over-year results. Like, those are great. But, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, if it's dragging you down, if you have no family life, if you're just going into a dark place because all you're thinking about is making more money, but there's no purpose behind what you're doing, like, all those things are super important for an entrepreneur to understand. And so we went into it with a much broader perspective that we wanted to be able to talk about. Plus, it makes it much more natural for us to be able to touch on these subjects.
Yeah, I think that's definitely smartest. Definitely a smart approach to the way you guys are running things, because, like you said, you'll kind of pigeonhole yourself if you keep that narrow focus. So that's a great strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah. Plus, we wouldn't have been able to talk to people like Christian Myers that just released today, hearing about psychedelics and all that stuff. It's like tough to tie that in unless she's a veteran building that. So it gives us that avenue to talk about other cool things that we're really interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
Denny, have you explored that area of mental health, psychedelics?
I haven't. No, I talked about this in my last episode. I started taking trazodone overseas to sleep. They sent me home with trazodone. I took it for, I think, up until about 10, 11 months ago. So about 12 years or so, and stopped taking that, ended up, being able to sleep without it for the first time in a very long time. And then, I was on, I think I tried a dozen different, medications for PTSD and depression, over the last 12 years or so, and just completely stopped taking that as well. And I'll tell you, like, just being off all of the medication, it has been awesome. I'm probably functioning at my best, probably one of my higher levels, just mentally, just being off all of the medication. And because it seemed like every time the VA would try to, like, say, hey, we'll try this, or I would try that for a few months, and maybe it would make me feel better after 8-10 weeks, but then it would just either stop working, or I'd start gaining a bunch of weight or losing a bunch of weight, or I just couldn't find the right balance with all of the different things that they were trying to get me to try. And don't get me wrong, they were just trying to be helpful. It just wasn't working out. I have great people at the VA. Shockingly, like I don't have a lot of the the horror stories that a lot of vets have, thankfully. But yeah, no, just being off all of the medication and just, it's been great. And
Feeling life.
yeah, man. And for me, what the most helpful thing has been just talking, just getting it out, and just being open to sharing feelings that for the longest time I wasn't open to sharing or even feeling myself. And, not, shutting out the people that were just trying to help me and people that cared about me, whether that's family and relationships, because those are the people that suffered the most from my PTSD and my mental health issues are the people closest to me. And so just, I think I've done just a lot or a much better job of just talking and getting it out and learning new coping strategies and doing my very best to get away from, the medications and the external things that I know are very helpful to a lot of other people.
I think that's a big thing you touched on is the coping mechanisms. A lot of men in general just don't have coping mechanisms. They have physical outlets, whether it's exercise, fighting, drinking, and so not having productive things to do to release that energy. A lot of it comes down to just having that pent up energy, that excessive drive, like just get out of your skin. And especially if you're just sedentary or you don't feel motivated to get out and do anything, that really changes how everything is going. In life. And I talk to a lot of people that don't work out, they feel anxious, they don't sleep well, they don't eat well. And like it all just comes down, if you, not all, a large portion of it, if you have consistent energy output, if you have good nutrition and you have ways to talk about these things, so much can be accomplished in that. And then obviously, if you can get sleep, it helps. But if the issues are causing you not to sleep, then that's a different downward spiral that you have to touch on.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that's always been helpful to me is the gym. I've started working out when I was 18. I'm 41 now, and I've never stopped. That's the one constant that's just always been there as like a mental coping mechanism or an outlet for me. It has been the gym. So I've always done that. Well, you also brought up the negatives, right? Alcohol, that was a huge one for me. Getting home, again, I talk about this in my last episode of PTSD is, after I got home, I drank 6-8 months every single day. Just trying to like feel normal again or feel something, right? And just get my mind off of certain things. And, but yeah, so, and then again, just 2 years ago, getting divorced, it was same thing, alcohol. That's always been my thing is turning to alcohol when things got really hard and using that as a coping mechanism. That's obviously one of the worst things you can do is to use alcohol to deal with depression and PTSD. So just to touch upon like what I do now, and like I said, talking is a big thing for me, but another one is, in addition to giving up the medication, I haven't, completely given up alcohol, but I drink very rarely now. I pick my spots with it, weddings, happy occasions, right? Like my girlfriend and I, went to a wedding this weekend, had a few drinks. That was the first time I drank in 6 weeks. It's just not something I depend on anymore. It's not something I need. And I think it provides me personally just a higher level of productivity. And I operate at a much better capacity without the booze. So that's just another thing for me that's just been very helpful is cutting back substantially with alcohol.
But I think it's also huge. Go ahead, Denny.
No, I'll let you make your point first, and I had a question for you, Greg.
No, go ahead. I'll address it up, and you can ask me the question too.
Okay, no, I was going to ask if you had experience with the psychedelics, because obviously I know you're vocal in this area.
Yes, so I have partaked in psychedelics. I've done psilocybin, I've microdosed, I've done the hero dose, not under like clinical supervision. But yeah, it was a game changer for me.
Nice.
It's really been super helpful. I also have taken them while on antidepressants. I'm on Effexor right now. My hope is to like get off of those medications. And I think that doing psychedelics or having some sort of ceremony is going to be huge for that. I just don't want to do it right now while we're like getting adjusted to a new country, new lifestyle, and all the stressors that come along with that. But my other point about in alcohol, I haven't touched alcohol, and alcohol has never been like something that I've used as a coping mechanism. I don't think, but I haven't drank in like a year and a half now. And to your point about like productivity and stuff like that, I mean, when you drink, like even if you're drinking like 2 or 3 nights a week, like and you're waking up a little bit groggy, like that over time, waking up groggy 2 or 3 days a week, like that adds up.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, that's been a huge game changer for me is not drinking. And I haven't missed it really at all, which has been kind of surprising.
Yeah, same. Cutting back, I went from, golf season over the summertime, playing a lot of golf. And, Kevin, I saw you in Bobby's video or pictures.
Oh, yeah.
That's sweet.
I've done 2 of the photo shoots with him. It's fun.
Oh, that's cool, man. But, so in golf season over the summer, I was playing in a bunch of different events. I played like some competitive golf over the summer, and every time is like just drinks, and that turns into 3-4 drinks, like you said, 2-3 days a week, and it adds up. And so but you're right, I don't miss it at all. It feels great to not be dependent on it, and it feels great to just wake up fresh and ready to go every day, nice and early. And but yeah, Kevin, I gotta buy one of those shirts. Are they any good?
They're the best. I've got like 6 of them.
Nice.
The spring line. So for people listening, talking about Bobby Holland with Hooley Golf, Bobby is an absolute riot. He's a big team guy with these giant calves, which are always flexed.
He looks like a beast.
He's a good sized guy. He's not massive, but like he's definitely a burly individual. He was a breacher before he became a warrant officer, and he just has the most muscled swing ever. But he's figuring it out. It works, and every time when he goes to his follow through, you just see his calves flexing. Jesus, man,
dude, it's funny you say that because every time he posts a video of his swing, I'm like, holy shit, his legs are huge.
Yeah. And then he does his punch kick kapow dance move when he has a good drive.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So did you guys serve together?
No, again, another LinkedIn connection.
Nice.
As I was building out the network of veteran entrepreneurs, he somehow popped in my feed. Of course, I'm going to promote support a fellow team guy get into business, and I thought his stuff was really cool.
Nice.
So he just randomly reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I need some team guys to do a photo shoot so we can have we want to have that rough around the edges type golfer, not the straight laced Titleist type person. Like we want to build that as our demographic of people that like golf but don't necessarily fit in with that golf culture. So we're gonna have all the golf etiquette. We're gonna be respectful, good people, but we're gonna have a little bit of edge to our stuff. Like all the shirts have, or the majority of his shirts have very subtle things. The new line has straight up like Mick-Map combatives. People all over it. So
I saw that one.
That one's a little bit more in your face, but a bunch of them have like these little SEALs going skydiving or shooting positions.
Yeah.
Or it just looks like a cool pattern, but when you get closer, it's a terrain map of something. And so it has these nice little hints to the military side, but they're all top quality stuff. I think they're all made in America too, but the fabrics are great. The cuts are good. And the creative design that he's got is on point. I don't know where he comes up with this stuff.
Nice. No, it's funny. You should see some of the looks that I get when I show up to the golf course. Cause like I got a full sleeve here. It's a nice We the People tattoo across my forearm. My legs all tatted up. So I'm like, I get the looks at some of these clubs that I go to. And it's like, and I have a friend who's really, really into golf. He's actually a rater. He rates golf courses for Golf Digest. And so he's been to like the best of the best clubs that you can't even get on. And I say to him all the time, I'm like, dude, I can't stand the uppity, that part of golf. I just love I just want to go out there and have fun, play, and have that be it. But he's like, no, there's a place for it and this and that. And I'm like, that's just not for me. I don't, I just want to have fun with some good people and play some golf. I love going to the nice courses and playing the best courses I can get on. But, for example, he's been to courses and he's got tattoos and he has to wear a long sleeve shirt and cover them up. And if I have to do that, I'll go play golf down the street somewhere else. That's just me.
Yeah,
for real.
That's how it was in Korea when I was living out there. I didn't have any tattoos yet. Ironically, I got all my tattoos as I was getting out of the military. But yeah, Korea, just like Japan, they have that huge aversion to tattoos, especially among the older generation. The newer people, our generation, they're much more open to tattoos and stuff. But I think it goes to the Yakuza stuff in Japan, and Korea kind of follows that. And so they won't even let you in some of the bathhouses if you have tattoos. If you're on the golf course, you need to be completely covered up.
Wow.
So it's interesting to see how different cultures are accepting or rejecting tattoos.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It definitely leaves a stigma. Although there was a comedian that, I don't remember what his name was, but he was talking about how back in the day, like our parents and grandparents' generation, like if you saw a guy with a bunch of tattoos, man, this guy, you don't want to fuck with this guy.
Yeah.
It's like, thank you to the hipsters for making tattoos seem like, well, people with tattoos seem like pussies. Like, my barista has a sleeve tattoo. I no longer am afraid of people with tattoos.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like even if you look back to like the 80s and 90s, it was like bikers, right? Like it wasn't like mainstream like it is. And like, you're right though. It almost took like a bunch of like, I don't know if I want to be as politically incorrect, but
Please do.
It took like a bunch of pussies to make tattoos like more mainstream.
I mean, it's really what it came down to. Is once the baristas started getting tattoos, you're like, okay, we're cool now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's okay. That's funny.
Now you see people with the full hand tattoos, which, I mean, if things with this podcast keep going, I really can care less. Maybe some hand tattoos are going to come in. Dude, probably going to be the other sleeve.
I tell my wife this all the time. It's like, as soon as like, and like, I'm pretty close. I think I'm pretty close to this, is like neck tat going down, hand tats definitely going to happen at some point. So wife, if you're listening to this, watch out. Your boy's getting tatted.
There you go.
Started growing the beard. Or have you just kept doing it?
She hasn't said anything about it, so I'm just gonna keep it going. I think I'm like almost through the awkward point with the beard, where it's like
it's looking good.
No, yeah, we're there. We're there. Yeah.
Yeah, this is about as long as I get. I've never done the full beard thing.
The Northeast guys in Massachusetts, New York, Long Island, all you guys like the clean shaven look. Hipsters never really got fully infiltrated out there. It's more of a California thing, Colorado.
Yeah. So is it like a rule? And I was just curious about this. Like, do you guys, like in the SEAL teams, is it like a rule you got to learn how to surf? I feel like I've heard that or seen that somewhere. Like, do you guys surf, all of you guys?
I mean, there's a bunch of us that do, but there's also some of the most uncoordinated swimmers and aquatic people you'll ever see. Yeah. There's definitely a divide. Like, everyone has to be competent in the water, not be a liability.
That makes sense.
But I mean, you get some country bumpkins. The first time they see the ocean is when they show up to Buds, and they're like, "What is that?" And you're having to get them to paddle out on our inflatable boats through some of those waves, just getting rocked. Like some of the worst injuries I saw during Buds were from surf passage, meaning we're paddling out in the boats, because it's 7 guys. You're putting if there's an officer in that boat, he's typically the coxswain. So someone that may or may not have any experience dealing with large waves and steering a boat with a paddle, they're getting the entire team together, learning to read the waves, passing through them. And you see these boats getting folded in half. They get spun 90 degrees and then rolled. It just turns into a yard sale. It's like paddles all strewn about. You have the boat. You have people floating 100 yards apart as they're trying to collect themselves. But some of the worst ones are when the boat just gets folded in half. And so the people in the front get smashed back into the people in the back. And we're all wearing helmets. And so you get a helmet to the face, paddle coming through. It can be brutal.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't think that the water aspect would have been for me. Yeah, I think I would have stayed Army, like, Rangers, Green Beret, stay away from the water as much as possible.
Dude, one of my buddies, he's over at CAG now, and he almost didn't even become a Green Beret because he couldn't pass we have the only, it's one of the gates. It's a 50-meter, I think it's a 50-meter swim in full uniform, boots and everything like that. And the dude he's from Texas, clearly did not swim a whole lot growing up, and he is the fittest dude I know. And he was drowning, barely
Wow.
could get through 50 meters of swimming. It was incredible. But now he's over at CAG and crushing it. And
He's just near the water.
Well,
just get that dude.
Me and my buddy John, he was a Navy guy. He was he flew on the planes as a crewman, or I don't know what they're called.
Mm-hmm. Crew chief.
Yeah, crew chief. And we went on our wives at the time. We went to Dominican Republic, and one of the activities we did was snorkeling, so swimming with fins and all of that. I jumped in the water with some fins on, and you would have thought I was gonna drown and die. I didn't know what to do with my feet and how to And the idea was I thought it was supposed to be easier, but for me it became, I don't know, just 100 times harder, and I almost died just trying to swim with fins on. I was I'm going like this with my feet. How do I do this? What am I?
So, doing a Stairmaster.
Oh, he still makes fun of me for it too. He's yeah, you just, yeah. So I tried.
The funniest
I did my best.
Being both in the Marines and the Navy, the two water forces, the number of people that outside of doing survival swimming just to save their life cannot swim. They're just super uncomfortable in the water. It's why did you choose the service that puts you near the water? Join the Air Force, man. Be as far away from the water as you can possibly be.
Yeah, I've heard of people going to buds who just didn't know how to swim or didn't swim well, and doing quite well at it. It's surprising to me, but I mean, again, I don't have that experience. So, but yeah, I've definitely heard that before of people just
the water stuff. It's a differentiator between the other special operations things. Just because we're, I think, the only one that does it in the ocean. The Air Force with the CCTs and stuff like that, they do a lot of pool training, and the PJs they do a lot of pool training. And so they're proficient swimmers, but being in the ocean is it's a different level of having to go through the waves. It scares a lot of people the first time the ocean is a powerful force. Yeah. It'll take the biggest man and just throw you around.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of people that experience that for the first time, they get a whole different level of respect for what water can do.
Sure. Yeah.
So with you guys podcast, what do you see the trajectory being? I know you're identifying your tenants. You just had your 6th episode, I think you said. What type of guests are you going to want to be bringing on? Are you going to try and keep it in person as much as possible? Are you going to try and bring in some virtual stuff just so you can open up the guest pool? What do you see the next 6 months being be the standard?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think a lot of our guests, you're going to see a lot of vets. I don't know if you know Nick Kumalatsis. I always say his name wrong. Kumalatsis. He works with Bedros at the project, and
okay.
So I have him coming on next month virtually. I believe he's West Coast as well. So he'll be probably my biggest guest. Then I talked to another one of those guys as well. He actually reached out to me, saw the podcast, kind of liked it. He's former Army Ranger, so I'll have him on at some point. John Doolittle, former SEAL, he's going to come on. I think he's coming on in June because I think he's going to come up to Boston. They're doing the Boston Frogman Swim, basically.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay version of that, which he just did actually back in January. But I think he's going to come
on in New York and San Diego.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I think he's going to come up and do the Boston one, and so we'll have him on the podcast, hang out with him. So yeah, just a lot of vets, and I'd like to have a friend of mine, she's a mental health professional, to expand more on PTSD and things like that. But yeah, no, that's kind of the idea, I'd like to have another half dozen or so guests between now and maybe July, and, see where this thing goes. But so far, I'm really happy with the engagement that we've had. And I think it's actually been a lot better than I expected. And the responsiveness to what we're looking to accomplish has been pretty cool. Just like I said, guys like Kevin, guys like Bedros, like just guys that are willing to have a discussion about what we're looking to accomplish and offer up advice, and again, surround ourselves with like-minded individuals that are just out here trying to grow a business and at the same time help some people along the way.
Absolutely. And what are you doing to promote the podcast? Is it all LinkedIn? Do you have other social media?
Yeah, so I'm
IG,
very
baby.
heavy.
He's hot on IG.
I'm very heavy on Instagram. As heavy as I can be. Because you can do good, like decent advertising there, and it's pretty cheap, right? Like if I boost,
so you're doing actual paid ads?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
cheap. It's like $5 a day. So I'll do, like, depending on the week or depending on what it is. Like last week with the mental health thing, I really wanted to push that hard. So I think I did the one that was like $10 a day for 4 days. So I spent $40, and I think my business page, I think I gained like 150 followers and got a lot of engagement, a lot of DMs, thank you for sharing. And that's really the idea, is to get people engaged and people sending those messages. It's humbling, especially when it comes to the mental health stuff. People are sending you, their personal stories and their personal, they're sharing shit with you that, they probably only told a therapist before. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, no, so a lot of Instagram. I obviously do LinkedIn as well. I haven't really mastered LinkedIn on how to get, the engagement that I'd like. I think I see something like 20 likes per post or something like that, which is fine, right? Because at the end of the day, it's whether I get 1 like or 0 or 50 or 100, doesn't really matter. I'm going to keep throwing it out there because I think what we're doing is positive, and I think, it's only a matter of time before it really catches on. So those 2 places are the biggest. Everything that I post on Instagram just goes to Facebook, and I just let it. But that's mostly just, people I grew up with, high school friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, just the most people I could touch. As many platforms as I can, as many people as I could touch. The only one I haven't done yet, and I'm just reluctant to do, is TikTok. I don't know why, but I don't think I can bring myself to do it. But supposedly it's helpful. But we'll see.
Are you able to put similar posts from Instagram onto TikTok? Is that a transfer? Like if you did a short reel or something on Instagram, are you able to put that onto TikTok so you don't even have to create something new?
I don't know. I don't know if it, like, I know it does that with Facebook, but they're also owned by the same company, so that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you can do the same thing with TikTok. I feel like you probably can, but I'm not sure. But
yeah, there's got to be some workaround.
Yeah, I would imagine. But it is kind of like time consuming to go from like do it all on LinkedIn, or excuse me, like Instagram, and then go do it on LinkedIn. I wish there was something a little more seamless for that, but it's not that difficult because I could just copy and paste the message and it's fine. It's mostly just the manual having the tag like just different things or people or whatever. So, but you guys are obviously very heavy on LinkedIn. Are you guys anywhere else?
Not at this point. We're just on LinkedIn. We every single conversation, every time this comes up, I always say that we're going to get on Instagram. So this is episode 16 or 17, and I've been saying this since episode 1 that we're going to get on Instagram. So and before that, I've actually said that before that.
You guys are doing really good considering like just being on one platform. When you expand, I mean, I'm anxious to see what that looks like, because you guys are doing. I think you guys are doing pretty good. I mean, this is all just so new, and this stuff takes time. But
yeah, I think Instagram will help. It's a different audience, for sure. But I think it's necessary. We just need to
pull the trigger and
hammer
do
it out and do it. Yeah.
What's
Exactly.
what is nice about Instagram is if you do start doing any of those like paid ads or whatever, you can kind of select like a targeted audience too. So you can stay away from, the teenagers and the, pop culture, whatever, and gear it towards more like a fitness audience or like a veteran audience or, maybe like gun manufacturers or like, people that are going to be more interested in, listening to what guys like us, I think, have to say.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting how the different platforms have very different demographics of people.
Oh yeah.
Facebook's like the boomers, or at least stereotypically, it's the boomers that have gotten on Facebook years ago, and that's all they do now is they share photos and talk politics.
Yeah, I stopped getting excited
blah, blah, blah.
Facebook likes when I realized they were all just my mother.
And your politically inclined uncle that watches nothing but Fox.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or Fox News.
Yeah.
And then Instagram was good until Facebook bought it. And then I feel like people, especially the younger Gen Z and the younger millennials, were like, "Oh, Facebook owns this. Yeah, we're off here." And then they got the churn among the Gen Zers and younger on Facebook or on on social media platforms is insane. They're like, "Oh, I'm over this," and it's just like it's dead to them, and they just completely cut it off and move on. Whereas the complete opposite with the boomers and Gen Xers, they're like, "Oh, but I have so much committed to this. Like I've put in so many photos and years of effort cultivating all my followers," and so they just stick it out no matter what. They don't care about sunk costs.
Yeah,
and so trying to figure out which demographic is on which platform and where you need to put in your time, because it really is, every platform is a part-time job that you need to really foster. LinkedIn, it's posting every day for over a year now to get where I was or to get where I am. Instagram, I've deleted that off my phone over a dozen times. It's like I had to have an unhealthy relationship with it. I find myself scrolling on it. TikTok I've never put on, but my wife had it on her phone. It was the same thing. Like you just find yourselves Thursday evening hanging out on the couch after you finished cleaned up. Like, oh, let's look through a couple videos. And it's like the algorithm knows, and it keeps sending you cat videos and surfing videos of people eating shit. It's like, oh, I can do this all night.
Yep. Yeah. And I need to get better on LinkedIn. Like I post maybe 2 or 3 times a week, I feel like. But I'd like to increase my presence there, just because I do feel like the reach on LinkedIn is just so much greater than a lot of other places, just because, if a guy like, you guys likes my photo, you guys have so many followers, so that goes out to so many different people. And, I just think, a good presence there is important. I have it on Instagram as well. I post more there, probably closer to 4 or 5 times a week. I try to post every day there, but like I said, LinkedIn, I need to get better. I just haven't. But yeah.
LinkedIn is like, you just have to get into a rhythm where you're posting almost daily, and then you're hitting up like a crowd of people on their posts and commenting on theirs, because that's paying those debits is like what ultimately gets you to grow. And because then like people with bigger audiences start commenting on your things and start liking your stuff, and then that's just, like you said, like it's just snowballs. So
it's a whole ecosystem.
It is an ecosystem.
And one of the things I definitely need to improve on in LinkedIn is commenting more off of the business page as opposed to like me personally doing it. So that's just something that because sometimes I get not confused, but like I forget to switch accounts, and I'll mean to comment from the business page and I comment from my personal, or vice versa. So yeah, just it's part of, I think, the growing pains of just doing what we're doing. But it is a lot more work than I expected, getting a podcast up and running and doing it the right way, as far as all the posting and even just the equipment and whatever. But it's been a fun experience, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's been just very beneficial, just meeting people and networking and growing just my network of people. And just going on this journey. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's easy to grab a microphone and record yourself talking about whatever.
Yeah.
But that's probably why why the standard to have a successful podcast is so low in terms of the total number of downloads. I think it was like 148 downloads. You're in the top 28 or 25% of all podcasts. And if you make it past 10 episodes, you're in the 80% of the people have already fallen off at that point.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's very easy for people to get discouraged because they're not getting the traction, because they're not putting in essentially the marketing to get awareness about their podcast. There's like, oh, I'm just going to make a podcast and everyone's going to listen to it. It's going to be great. And they don't get that immediate feedback. So there's, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because that's something Mike and I talk about a lot is, the delayed gratification. Like this is a long game. And you have to be in it for the long haul, or else you're going to be in that, bottom 80% of people who don't make it to their 10th episode. And, I know that, and that's something Mike and I talked about when we just first got this started. I was like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to be committed to it. And we're going to, we're going to do this for a few years before we decide, like, okay, maybe it's not working. Because it's a commitment. It is, but it's necessary, unfortunately, right? You're not going to get that immediate feedback or that initial dopamine rush that you want. It's just not going to happen that fast for us. But I think that it's like anything else that we talk about, especially on our shows. It's the process and going through that's going to be fucking awesome. So.
Yeah, that's another great part about having a co-host. You have an accountability buddy.
Yeah,
he's there to give insight, to help keep things moving, to provide his network into promoting it. We have two different perspectives, so it helps keep the conversations going a lot. It's not just one person having to come up with all the content, all the guests, all the conversation, keep the flow going, come up with the promotion, do the posting. It's a lot to do yourself.
Yeah, I think I do most of that, but it's just because Mike's so busy with a lot of other things. I mean, I got a full-time job on top of this, but he's got the gyms, he's got firefighting, he's got the Army. So, I mean, I'm happy to do the majority of that stuff, like the posting and, finding guests and different things and whatnot. But, one of the things that I'm excited to do at some point is, like, I want to have an argument with the guy on the show, because it seems like we're always in agreement on everything. So it's like, we need to find something that we don't really agree on and just talk about that, because, I feel like we're kind of like, we do a good job feeding off of each other, and it's a great conversation always. But, I feel like we agree too much. So I'm excited for that first on recording argument that we have.
I think you guys need to fight over CrossFit. I think that's like the.
I've taken a couple shots at him already. Like, all right, man, we get it. You do CrossFit, like. And he laughs.
I think you see the egg on a little bit. Just
What?
keep pushing his button. He'll break down eventually. Anybody that owns a CrossFit gym will eventually get into the CrossFit argument.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, did you have fun at your box?
Yeah. They'll give you the material, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
Well, cool, man. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with the standard, growing your podcasts, any other projects you have on the line before we sign off?
no, I mean, before we sign off, I guess, maybe just the last thing I would touch upon as far as like what Mike and I are ultimately looking to accomplish is, creating a person that you admire, right? And, when a person that you admire walks into a room, what do they look like? What are their characteristics? Are they honest, patient, kind, outgoing? What are their habits? And, something I like to tell people is something that I've personally experienced over the last 24 months or so, is that, you really can create a much different, better, more improved version of who you want to be in 12 to 18 months, in my opinion. That's not, a scientific timeline or anything like that, but, I can think of two different points in my life where I've kind of been at a low and had to make some serious adjustments and get kind of back to where I wanted to be. And it was about 12 to 18 months. So I would just tell anybody that, is listening, try just steal my 4 key principles and see if they work for you. There was something that I kind of came up with after the fact. I was like, wait a second, I can remember sitting there having these conversations with myself about making a change and, what was going to be necessary in order to make the change that I wanted to do. And just looking back, I was like, okay, damn, yeah, you did set some standards. You did create some habits. You executed and kept your promises to yourself, and you held yourself accountable. So, that's the only thing I would probably hit on and just close with on my end is, give it a shot, try those 4 key principles and, see if you can make some serious changes in 12 to 18 months. Cause I think you can. That's my personal belief, and I've done it. So, I truly believe in it.
I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, man.
It's a great message.
I'm about to run through a fucking wall right now. Kool-Aid, man.
Thanks, man.
Let's go.
I love it. No, and honestly, guys, it really is an honor to be here and to be a guest with you guys. I mean, I was excited to tell people that I was going on with you guys and kind of give them your backstory and tell them about your podcast. I've shared it with, I don't know how many people, because I think it's just so important for us to be helping each other as much as possible too, as vets. I see your stuff. I like it. It's important to me that, we're helping each other out. So it really is really special to be here with you guys. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate the support.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Of course. Always.
Well, we'll have to have you on again once you've hit another major milestone. You have Bedros on. You can tell us about what it's like to talk with him.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll see. Maybe someday, right?
Sounds good, Denny. Well, appreciate again everything, and wishing you the best of luck.
Awesome, guys. You too. If there's ever anything you guys need from me, let me know. And obviously, I'd love to have both of you guys on Be the Standard as well. So we have to make that happen.
I'm game, man. Just tell me when.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.